minus 42.6%, and Intercontinental also saying it won't pay an interim dividend. I have to say, Mark, I can't remember the last time I was in a hotel, so it's kind of dreamy to speak to the chief executive of IHG Hotels and Resorts. He is Keith Barr. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. Why are you not paying an interim dividend right now? Are you concerned about the future, and is there a specific region you're more concerned about because of the Delta variant?
Good morning. No, we're really pleased with how the first half has gone. When you look at increasing vaccination rates has led to travel restrictions being lifted, and that drove profit up 262% versus the previous year to 188 million. We made a decision not to pay an interim dividend because we still want to say how the recovery continues to progress, because we are still in the early phases of the recovery. Markets like the US are doing quite well. China has been doing quite well, UK, but many parts of the world are still early days because of lower vaccination rates too, so when we measured about how we move forward. But we're really excited about the growth of this business. We opened 132 hotels in the first half of the year and signed more than one hotel a day, over 200 hotels in the first half. And in a few weeks' time, we'll be launching a new luxury and lifestyle collection brand too, so which will be the 6th brand we've added to the portfolio in the last 5 years. So really exciting growth. It's great to see people coming back into hotels, but we still have a ways to go before we're fully recovered.
Good morning, Keith. That first half growth sounds very impressive, very optimistic. I'm delighted to hear about it. Like Francine, I have not experienced a hotel for some time and would like to again soon. In 2020, you referred to the coronavirus as a short-term blip. Obviously, we've all had to frequently reevaluate how bad the pandemic will get. I'm curious on what your latest outlook for when the pandemic will no longer be relevant at all to your results. Like, it might be a minor point, but it'll no longer be a major input. Do you think that'll be by the end of this year, by early next year? What is that outlook?
I think it's really going to correlate directly to vaccination rates and the lifting of travel restrictions. So if you look at the United States right now, very high vaccination rates. And actually, I was there 2 weeks ago. I flew from London to Atlanta to Salt Lake City and then Los Angeles. The planes were full. The front of the planes were full. The back of the planes were full. And not just with people on holiday. There were people like me with rollerboards and briefcases too. And so you can see that travel is going to come back. But again, many other markets around the world have very low vaccination rates. And so there's travel restrictions. So I think we're going to see at least through this year and probably into time of next year, we'll see those restrictions still be in place. And so when those get lifted, again, you'll see people are desperate to travel. I mean, there is that demand and that hunger we see. I'll give you an example. We opened up in Spain, a resort recently, and when it was made approved to the UK, we booked €1 million of business in one day.
Keith, I was on a plane and actually it was 100% full, but instead of, five flights to Genoa, there's only one every 3 days now. So give us a sense of what kind of summer bookings you've seen and how much are you expecting the winter to do better? You're very exposed to the US and China. Are you more worried about China or the US because of lockdowns?
Well, China has some restrictions in place right now. You've seen that happen. They're pretty hard and pretty sharp, but they usually are pretty short. So I think that we should see that recovery begin in September. The U.S., again, 50% of our hotels are at or above where they were in 2019. So you'd say that they have recovered. The areas that are still quite challenged are the big urban centers. It's the Londons, the New Yorks, the San Franciscos, because those depend upon a few things. One, international travel, which is restricted right now, and groups, meetings, and events too. And so I think you'll see more corporate travel begin to come back, talking to other chief executives into the autumn. But again, it will begin ramping up probably more into 2022.
Okay, if you think that corporate travel is going to come back in 2022, I'm curious, how do you think 2022 corporate travel will likely compare to 2019? Not compared to this year, not compared to last year, which we know were devastated, but do you think we're going to get back to 75% of 2019 levels, or is that too optimistic?
Well, I was listening to some of the airline CEOs recently talk about what they're seeing, and they're seeing levels at about between 50 and 60% of corporate travel has come back through some of their major routes too. So you expect that to progress into 2022, probably fully recovering into 2023 onwards. It's really hard to tell. I was talking to one CEO the other day who made an interesting observation. He says the way that he traveled is going to change, though. He said, I probably won't take as many flights as I used to, but I'll probably have as many hotel nights as I used to, because I'll be doing longer trips and staying in market because I can work remotely too. So I think you will see, from a hotel stay standpoint, probably business travel recover faster than the airline side.
What about the labor market, Keith? Are you struggling to actually hire staff? Does some of the staff want to work from home? And again, I imagine it's very country dependent, but is there anything that makes you worried about the future?
Yeah, it is very country dependent. So kind of in the emerging markets, we're fine in terms of labor. It's really the developed markets. You're talking about the US and the UK and parts of Europe. And what we saw, honestly, was demand has come back in the services sector, whether that's hospitality, travel, tourism, or retail, much faster than we expected. We didn't expect to have this level of demand. And so we've been struggling to hire staff back. Some people have left the industry during the pandemic to go work in other industries. Some people still don't quite feel comfortable coming back because of COVID. What we have to do is make sure that people understand this is an amazing industry to work in. And so we're very focused on adding incremental recruiting resources, training and development resources. But it has been a bumpy summer in terms of hiring staff, and we hope that will normalize in the coming quarters.
Have you had to raise wages significantly to counter that kind of difficulty in getting staff? And do you think it's transitory in nature? Do you think, particularly in the US, do you think that labour shortage will ease once the emergency social support wears off in kind of September and the virus situation eases up a bit as well?
I think when the social support goes away, that will take some of the pressure off. But this industry had a challenge before COVID hit in terms of attracting labor, just because of how fast the industry has been growing. It's amazing to see the pace of which we've been adding and opening hotels around the world. So I believe when the pandemic is concluded, when some of the social pieces services are lifted, you'll see more people coming into the labor market overall too. But transitory, I wouldn't say it. I think we still have a couple of quarters, if not maybe a year in front of us, where we're going to have to be really building up our staff, training and developing, and making sure people come back into this industry. It has put pressure on wages. The great thing about the hotel industry, though, is we price our products every single day, too. So as wages rise, we have the ability to price that into our overall business and operating model, too.
Keith, thank you so much. I imagine clear travel rules would also help with hotel bookings. Keith Barr there, IHG Hotels and Resorts Chief Executive Officer. Now, we're also just getting some